I wouldn't consider myself an expert on technique, which is why I don't talk about technique too much. I generally stick to what I know, which is also why I don't cover grappling. But I would consider myself really good at understanding style, fighting style, why certain combat athletes fight the way they do, why their guards and stances and tool set is the way it is. Hold up, I'm forgetting something. No, you're forgetting something, like the video. Okay, sometimes people will look at Alex Pereira and see how fundamentally unsound he is, hands down, kind of like chin in air, a lot of weird and to a certain extent bad habits and techniques. Particularly they look at his guard and things like that. Roy Jones is a similar thing in his prime. And it's important to acknowledge what the fundamentals are used for. The fundamentals are a set of tools and techniques that were refined to be the most applicable to the widest variety of the general fighting population. Meaning the fundamentals should be great for any average fighter to help them get up to the level to compete with others. That's what the fundamentals are for, efficiency. It's supposed to be easy to learn and easy to implement for just about anyone to use them, regardless of skill level or physical attributes. A low risk, low reward toolbox. Now, style is interesting because style isn't contingent on fundamentals, and in fact, sometimes it's quite the opposite. Style is unique to the fighter, and they're particularly unique to their attributes. Some would look at someone like Alex Pereira and say he can only get away with fighting like that because of his power and size, or in other words, his intrinsic qualities, intrinsic athletic abilities. And often credit is taken away from his skills and his style due to superior athletic attributes, but that's a foolish perspective, for at least a couple of reasons. One of the reasons being you're watching supreme athletes compete because of their elite athletic attributes. It's weird to condemn them or take away from their accomplishments by mentioning the exact reason you're watching them in the first place. But another reason that's a foolish thing to say is because Floyd wouldn't be able to use the Philly shell as effectively if he didn't have great reflexes. Mike Tyson wouldn't be able to use his peekaboo style if he wasn't so short and explosive and fast. Muhammad Ali wouldn't be able to float around the ring and lean his head just barely out of the way of a punch if he didn't have such great reflexes and agility for his size. Francis Ngannou couldn't bulldoze through people if he didn't have the physical capabilities to enforce his will. All great fighters have great attributes physically in one area or another, at least in one area or another. And the IQ that they have in the ring, although it's sharpened and improved over time, their natural aptitude is going to be much higher than the average person. And everything I just said applies to all elite combat sports athletes. Their general physical capabilities are going to be greater than the average person. So this includes your favorite fighter. It doesn't matter. As long as they're on the elite level, they made it into the UFC or they made it onto TV and boxing, they're far better athletically gifted in probably several areas than the average person sitting on their couch. So everything I said applies to them too. So generally it's going to apply to your favorite fighter. And the point I'm trying to get to is that trying to judge athletes or take away from the accomplishments of athletes due to inherent attributes is counterintuitive to the whole reason we love watching the competition in the first place. It makes no sense either. Technique is a part of skill set, but more importantly than the technique itself is finding the technique that best suits you. And sometimes there are trade-offs. I choose Alex Pereira as an example because I hear a lot of complaints about his style, how fundamentally unsound it is. And the same could be said for Roy Jones or Muhammad Ali. At their time, people complained about their styles and how they were in their prime. You have these great athletes with great attributes and their styles aren't fundamental because they aren't average. What we said earlier is fundamental helps with the average. Well, if they're not average, then the fundamental might not help as much. It would make sense they would develop something more uniquely fitting to their capabilities. Alex being tall, rangy, and snappy, he's going to rely on a different kind of defense and a different kind of offense, and so his stance and guard reflect that. He maximizes his strongest attributes by being offensively driven and providing multiple angles of attack. Contrary to general fundamentals, he is high risk, high reward, which is why his fights look the way they do and why he's had, some issues defensively. Sometimes when unique athletes are forced to be more generic, it actually takes away from their ability to succeed. And oftentimes it is their uniqueness in the style of a great athlete that allows them to maximize their success in the first place. But ultimately, the art and science of combat sports is all about adaptation. So whatever style you naturally have, can you morph that style to counteract all of the different styles you'll face in your career? If the answer to that is yes, then the style is probably the best fit for you. Now, Fundamentals can help fill gaps in individual styles athletes create. In this video, I'm gonna make this clear several times, this video isn't about trashing the fundamentals. They exist for a reason, and they've existed, especially in boxing. Fundamentals, for example, existed for hundreds of years, to a certain degree. They exist for a reason because they're highly efficient and highly effective. The whole point is that you don't have to completely be reliant on fundamentals, and you can have some flaws in your style so long as there's a trade-off that allows for greater success in another area. And you want to know how you figure that out. It's through the results. If you're a 4-time champion in 2 different sports, you probably found the right style for you. It's highly likely. If you're somebody like Roy Jones, who's going up and down the weight classes and he has a lot of technical flaws and bad fundamentals, you probably chose the right style for the prime version of your athletic self. Again, to make it clear, the fundamentals are one of the most important things to have in any fighter's toolbox, and some aspects of the fundamentals, I would argue, you cannot be successful without. However, breaking from them is not the end of the road. Sometimes it is an opening to a new road, and possibly a far more successful one. They are called martial arts for a reason. Self-expression. Self-expression helps you find the style that fits you, and science helps you refine the style to fit your opponent. Fights and science, that is all. Immortality Serum out.